having now established that there is so much room for curiosity, there are so many unanswered questions, it is likely that our reality is a projection of some form. I have a few inquiries. One is, how do we use this to alter our experience of reality, to have a more peaceful and happy experience of reality? And why is it that power and domination seem to have a repetitive paradigm throughout the history of civilization, these structures of dominance, whether it's colonial domination, capitalist domination, the continual subjugation of people, the establishments of hierarchies of power, the dissemination of false information. Why do these things recur? Why are human beings so interested in power? How can spirituality and the questions that are evoked by this new understanding using the language and methods of science, how can this understanding be used to, how can it be utilized to increase the happiness of people as individuals, to increase social equality and social liberation?
There are two questions you've asked, and I'll try my best to answer them both. The first is, there's already research now, and we have been doing this research as well, but there are many other institutions that are doing research on what are called spiritual experiences and non-dual experiences, unity consciousness experiences. And some of the things that we have found, as others have found, the shifts that take place in people who are going through a spiritual practice, whether it's contemplative self-inquiry, or it's self-realization, or it's mindful awareness of perceptual experience, mindful awareness of mental space, mindful awareness of the web of relationship, mindful awareness of the universe, mindful awareness of awareness. As people go through these experiences, here are some of the things that are measurably seen. Okay, first is they experience a change in their identity. They slowly no longer identify as the body-mind as who they are. They identify with a consciousness in which the body-mind is a happening, is an experience, a changing experience. That's one, a shift in identity from personal to in the direction of universal. The second thing that they experience is a shift in emotions. So there's less drama, less melodrama in their life, but also emotions evolving in the direction of love, compassion, joy, equanimity, to the point they realize that love is the ultimate truth at the heart of creation. Not just a sentiment, not just an emotion, but the glue of unity consciousness that actually is the force behind the ecosystem of relationships. So that's the second shift they have, emotionals. The third shift they have is in memory. Memory is sharp, but they're not victimized by memory. You know, all addiction is actually being a victim of a memory. So once you go beyond the memory, transcend the memory, then as the phrase is, I use memories, but I do not allow memories to use me. So you're not victimized by the past, which no longer exists, except as a wisp of memory somewhere in consciousness, non-local consciousness. So there's a shift in how we use memory. The fourth thing that happens is in a shift in perception, which means perception is clearer. It is also in the present moment. There is no resistance, there is no anticipation, there is no regret. It's just this experience in the vivid now, this lucid dream in a vivid now. That's the fourth thing that happens, shift. And then there's a spontaneous unfoldment of insight, of intuition, of the power of imagination, the harnessing of intention and attention, a vision of higher consciousness, loss of the fear of death. These all things follow. So these are now being actually studied and replicated, and then you can also see the biological effects. So we've done study published in Nature and other journals and replicated by others. Our first study was with a Nobel laureate, 1 week of a retreat experience like the one we're having right now. Genes that cause self-regulation went up 17-fold, some genes. Genes that cause inflammation, disease went down by a significant amount of factors. Inflammatory markers went down. The brain changed. So just the experience of contemplative self-inquiry and transcendence actually changed the biology. So the question, how does biology produce consciousness, becomes irrelevant. Biology is a product of consciousness and its modes of experience and knowing. So these are some of the things that actually are now being documented biologically. What's happening to the brain? Is the mind the activity of the brain, or is the brain the activity of the mind? Or are both mind and brain activities of a transcendental consciousness? These are questions that people are addressing based on these biological experiments, shifts in perception, knowledge, shifts in knowledge, shifts in knowing, what people call gnosis, or noetic knowing without going through a logical process, what spiritual traditions call revelation. Revealed truth comes to you in stillness. And so that's the first part of your question. Is there any measurable experience that can be replicated? Yes. Every modality of meditation, contemplative self-inquiry, mindfulness, reflection, imagination, emotion, thought is measurable. We can measure what's happening in the genes. We can measure what's happening in the brain. And we're realizing that only 5% of disease-related gene mutations are fully penetrant, which means you have a gene that is so defective that the disease is going to be guaranteed. But that's true only of 5%. 95% are related to, are we sleeping well? Do we manage stress? Do we have love and compassion? Are we eating healthy? Are we moving? Are we breathing properly? Are we practicing mind-body coordination? All these have very specific effects on your biology.
Thanks for watching this podcast and going all the way to the end of it. Would you so kind as to click the bell, might not be there, could be over there, and subscribing so that we can infiltrate your serenity and peace of mind with jangling bells and buzzes. Thank you.